It's the Sod Pod, brought to you by Grassland Agro. The Sod Pod. Hello, and welcome to the Sod Pod. This is episode 9 of season 3. I'm here with Steady Eddie Healy, and we've also got a special guest. We have Marcus O'Halloran from Agri Aware on. Marcus, how are you keeping?
I'm not too bad, James, and yourself?
I'm very good. It's brilliant to have a proud Tipperary man on.
Yeah, delighted to be on.
Good man. Marcus, look, let's jump straight in. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about Tipperary, because we love Tip. And tell us about Agri Aware.
Thanks, James. So, I'm Marcus O'Halloran. I'm from a place called Cloneen. It's in the parish of Drangan and Cloneen in South Tipperary. We're milking cows. We're calving about 125, 130 cows. And then we bring a lot of the cows to our calves to beef. So a family farm at home with myself and my father. You know, I suppose between weekends and evenings or mornings that we're working from home or whatever, be heavily involved there at home. And then obviously the day job then is in Agri Aware in Dublin. But I graduated from UCD with Food and Agri Business Management and worked in IFA for a couple of years, James and Eddie. And I subsequently ended up in Agri Aware just at the start of COVID back in 2020. I was in the job about 2 weeks and the country was shut down, so Jesus, I was lucky I didn't have a house got in Dublin that time.
Yeah.
I suppose Agri Aware is a charitable trust that's set up in 1996. It was actually set up around the time of the BSE crisis, and the challenge at that stage was around the consumer and their trust in Irish beef in particular and our produce, and rebuilding that trust or creating a link between farmer and consumer and ensuring that the public was aware of the work that farmers done to, number one, sustain good food, two, sustain the environment, and three, look after their animals. And I suppose the challenge is much now as what it was then, really. You know, we have the rise of the environmental debate, we have the rise of veganism, we have all these other things, and I suppose Agri Aware is probably needed now more than ever. In terms of communicating with that non-farming audience and the importance of the role of the farmer. So that's probably myself and Agri Aware in a nutshell, James. But look, I suppose we communicate to the public through a lot of different ways. Our number one piece is around our school programs. Like last year, we had 230,000 kids, our pupils, that took part in Agri Aware programs between primary and secondary school. We had 8,000 people at on-farm events. We had a social media or media reach, I think PR media reach of about 24 or 5 million there. And that's kind of it generally. You know, we do everything through education and communication, and one goes hand in hand with the other.
It's savage, Marcus. And I suppose what I find really interesting about Agri Aware, you know, because sometimes when we're in farming, we get stuck into farming and we stay in our farming circle. And we forget in the modern world with how fast information is and fake news and the whole lot, the pressures that have come on farming from, I suppose, the outside world. And in many cases, it's their lack of understanding of what's actually happening in agriculture can cause that needle. Agri Aware would be good at educating people on what the process of farming is.
Yeah, so like we tear it all back really, and from, you know, we look after the age of in particular primary schools, and we try and bring them along the journey of understanding. You know, they all know what the cow and the sheep is and the horse is. You know, we all had those in our lives from a very young age and making the noises or whatever, but not everybody is brought along that journey thereafter in terms of what food production animals are and what role they have in society. And I suppose that's how we do it really. We do it through a number of different programs, but we also put farmers in classrooms. It's basically FaceTime a farmer kind of spec that we do. Like we've 90,000 kids that tune into that on a yearly basis just around FaceTime and farmers. You know, I know there's other initiatives like that are doing something similar, but none of them are anywhere near the volume that we're actually hitting. You know, and they get to see we've one thing there called Farming Through the Seasons, and it's exactly what it says in the tin. They see the cows calving, they see what happens in the springtime. The cows are in the shed, whatever. They see, in the summer series, they see the cows are out in grass, the calves are off milk, the silage is being cut. In the autumn, then they see, as I'm using dairy farming in particular, I suppose that's what's closest to my own heart at
Yeah.
home. But like in autumn, then they see the sheds are being gotten ready again, the straws arriving. We're looking at winter, and then obviously in the winter time we're back inside. But we communicate the truth to our pupils as well that take part in that. Like it's not all rosy out there, and it's not an absolutely amazing story all of the time. There is a lot of pressures that are with that. Animals die, and that can cause its own hardships on farms. TB is a real thing. We let them know, I suppose, that some animals, such as dairy cows, are workers, and they spend their lives working, to produce food for us. But the other animals, maybe such as your bull Angus or your bullock Angus, their lifespan is a lot shorter, and their role goes into the food supply chain a lot faster. And we're open about that, we do tell them that at the end of their life, which is in about 2 years, that this is what happens, and there's never really any bother really with telling that, and I think at times we shy away from saying the word slaughter or whatever. But it's a reality, and it's, I suppose, we bring that to them from a young age, and it's building that understanding and ensuring that trust that animal is looked after for the duration of their life to the best possible way they can. And in these days now, obviously, that the environment is being looked after in I suppose an equilibrium with the animal.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like, and we've often approached the subject there, and we've discussed farming influencers that are out there at the moment. And in fairness, like there is a lot of them out there that are actually doing great work, not on a similar scale, but they're doing great work out there to actually portray a true farming picture, what's actually going on farms from a day-to-day basis. I think that education is massive, because there is a lot of farmers out there doing their absolute best, when it comes to animal welfare, or when it comes to farming sustainably, or when we talk about the environment. I think there can be that perception there that farmers are portrayed as the devil, at times when we're talking about the environment or that. But there is a huge amount of farmers out there that are actually doing their best to show or try to adopt more sustainable farm practices. And I think you're doing a great job at actually showing that. Like I know, even an example there. I know some of your colleagues were on to me there about attending an open farm event. That's for anybody really to turn up and come on farm and watch cows getting milked and look at what's going on in agriculture at the moment. I know you had a very successful event in Shane Fitzgerald's last year as well. Is that something that you're going to do every year now going forward, or is that something that you're actively trying to do? I suppose it probably is.
Yeah, look at it. I suppose on the open farm side of things, we will be having an event in Monasterevin this year, just about 5 minutes from Junction 14. And the idea there is that you're only within an hour from the Red Cow. You have Naas, Newbridge, Port Arlington, Monasterevin, you have Laois. You have a big catchment area there where we'll be hoping to pull a crowd. Like, the purpose of those open farms is really to reconnect, or to connect the consumer with the farm, show them that what's actually happening. And like on Shane's farm last year in particular, the focus is really around the practice of what we're preaching. Shane was the classic example of that person who has, innovatively used the acre scheme by stepping his hedgerows out, or stepping the fence, out from the hedgerow. He's using multi-species. It's all LESS. It's a model farm in terms of where we need to all be aiming towards, really, in that space. But that's it. It's a great event, really, to bring people closer to agriculture. And for a lot of people, they mightn't have been on a farm before, and it opens up that opportunity to them. But like, I suppose you mentioned there, and rightly so, mentioned the pressures on farmers and that. And I'm a farmer myself, and what kills me and drives me nuts about the whole thing is Yes, influencers are doing great work. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them are. Like in any environment, there's a lot of people that are trying their hands. There's a good few of us that are in the education space now. I think we're head and shoulders, like far ahead of anyone in that space with the numbers we're doing. But like it all helps. It all has to help, and it all works kind of in a circle. But like what drives me nuts, the farmers, like we're the number one in Europe in terms of our environmental footprint in terms of dairy production. We have a PGI status in our beef for suckler farmers because we can keep cows and cattle out for 240 to 280 days of the year. We have a system like no other in terms of that it's grass based, but yet all we hear off of 1 or 2% of this country that seem to think that that their voices are more important than the majority, or that they're that I suppose they're the voices that are louder than the majority in some respects, because most people are damn well satisfied with how we're actually going about our business. But that 1 or 2% or the 2% or the 1 or 2% that are actually getting in on farmers, and it's hearing what they're saying in terms of that we need to reduce. Like you remember when we were in college, we like Food Harvest 2020 was all we learned about. And it was production. The government backed us, and we all took out money. We put in whatever infrastructure had to be done on farms to drive on. And suddenly, within the last 3 years, it's reduction. Those loans aren't paid in a lot of places. The cow numbers are there. The derogation is now in the top, but and the viability of paying those loans can be an issue in some places. Now, they're not everywhere, but there is some places where it hasn't worked out as well. But we're in a country where we should be incredibly proud of our agricultural acumen, and where agriculture should be celebrated. There's every bit of the potential in this country to be the breadbasket of Europe in terms of meat and dairy, but we seem to be getting shoved into a corner of that we are the villains here. And I think there's an unfair narrative out there around the volume of emissions from dairy or from agriculture. And that of transport, when I suppose it in all the other countries, the reason the percentage is that much less is because it's not their largest indigenous industry. Go to Germany, go to France, or go to Holland. Like it's indoor systems, lads, and as well as I do, there could be 31 different components in the rations that they're getting. Grass, we've nuts. There's probably 6 ingredients in a cow's diet in Ireland. So like that's, I suppose, look, that's I'm after going down a rabbit hole there now.
I'm not going to try bash the vegan movement, right? But there's an element of them out there where that they're noisy and their own faction. But the one thing we do know about the psychosis of a certain element of the vegan movement, because that's people's choice and fair play. You want to be a vegan, you want to be a vegetarian. Lovely, right? But the psychosis of a small element of the vegan movement, that model is not scalable. We cannot have 100% of the global population living on a vegan diet. There is not enough land, and it'll cause issues there. And we're all about trying to do balance. But then they take some imagery from a feedlot or whatever, and they use that again, farming. And this is why the Agri Aware model inside in the school, showing the kids what's happening on farm, and showing the grown-ups and educating them is superb. And we do see people seeing the two sides of the world, because you know what? That fucking avocado coming from Brazil, you're saving nobody there. You know what I mean? And that's the sort of fake thinking you're doing the right thing stuff that really irks me, to be honest.
I know, I couldn't agree more. And like with an Agri Aware hat on, farmers feed vegans. There would be no vegans unless farmers fed them in the first place. So maybe we're a bit at fault ourselves now. But I suppose the other side of it is I suppose on the other side of it is, for me, what irks me is the animal health and welfare messages like dairy takes babies from its mothers. Humane milk is a myth, don't buy it. Like us, their lives matter to them. But the reality of it is there's a half truth in some of it. Like dairy does take babies from its mothers. But what that poster doesn't say is this cow produces 30 litres of milk a day. This calf only drinks 6. It doesn't say that like this is a food production animal or this is a food producing animal. This animal actually would either dry up or she'll get mastitis. She could die. Anything could happen if the calf was left for her. And if the calf was, the calf was, the calf was fucking gorge on milk itself if it went too mad with the right cow. It's that's the side of it that drives me mad. And I suppose it's like we even see with the messaging around, I think is it Oatly or whoever, like it's like milk but made for humans. It's that kind of narrative that puts it in, and that makes people question their food choices. That really, really does, and they're effective campaigns because they work. And yeah, I don't know. We haven't mastered that yet on our own side, and I don't know that do we shy away from it because we're not. We try and avoid the confrontation on it, but look, the reality of it is the general public, James and Ed, like I think the majority back what Irish farmers are doing, and the majority can see that they do work tirelessly day in day out to produce food. It's just a pity we hadn't, I suppose, more of a population in Ireland that we could, for the food that we're producing, we could guarantee more of it, and there wasn't the question of reduction. But like, look, as we said earlier, what's the point in Ireland reducing what it's doing for it to come from somewhere else that is by no way more sustainable.
Yeah, and look, I think there is. I know there's greater pressure coming on farmers the whole time, from an environmental point of view, like an animal welfare point of view. But I think there is great work being done on farms. Like, and I think I'd be highly appreciative of the work that you're doing to try and get that education out there. I suppose, look, Marcus, you're balancing farming at home with working full time, and like there's major pressure there in itself, I suppose. Would you be able to talk to us a little bit about how how things are going at home and how you're balancing life? And I suppose we're on the back of a really, really tough spring this year. It hasn't been easy on any farmer in the country, whether it's a dairy farmer or the suckler farmer or tillage farmers, because it has been very, very, very difficult across the board. I suppose, how are things going your farm at home there? Or
yeah, it's amazing how quick you forget when the sun comes out. The difficulty you had only 4 weeks ago, it's like when the cloud lifts, it literally lifts mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose our winter started back last October when cows went in by night, and it was fully in gear. Like, we'd have a dry farm at home, so our handicap has always been feeding. We'd have cows out in February or the end of January, but we'd be feeding silage in June. And like last year, I think it was 6 weeks we didn't feed silage for, in total. And the winter started earlier, and I suppose we'd usually have them out by night, the cows in particular, around Paddy's Day. Like, we were getting out for 3 and 4 hours by day at that stage, and like a week or 2 weeks after that, it kind of started getting a bit like, Jesus Christ, like, is this ever going to stop? Like, and I could see it with Dad even as well. Like, it was starting to actually get in on us properly, and you're buying silage there, you're buying straw. Like, we brought in 2 Arctic loads of straw from the UK. €100 a bale, delivered in the air, 8x4x3. Like, we were buying silage. The cows were after, I suppose, 2 weeks before the whole thing kind of came somewhere right. Cows were back 500 litres a day in the collection. Like, we're down 3,500 litres a week. We were putting in how many bales of silage a week? The cows were up on 8 kilos of nuts to try and keep them or get them in some bit of condition for going back into breeding, and try and maintain what milk you could maintain. It was costing us €4,000 a week at home at that stage, like versus the year before. And whatever about the cost, but it was just, Jesus, was not seeing an end in sight was what the killer was. And Coolmore at home, I think they opened up their pits locally, and I actually had a load of silage that I was going to take off them, and thankfully I was able to cancel that, and somebody else was able to get it. But like, silage was gone, and there was silage that was being delivered into our yard as haylage, and it was pure hay. Like, and once hay goes into a cow's diet, you may forget about milk.
Yeah.
Completely. But like, look, no, it's going up. Like, we're well. Geez, we're near the end of the second rotation now. We're probably in a different position than a lot of people in that way. We've all fertilizer is all out. We're in the sustainability program with yourselves actually, so silage ground is done, all the top phoss is on, everything is on, and just even in terms of obviously work farmers are doing, like the work that you're doing, lads, in terms of that reduction of chemical nitrogen usage on farms with the soil test and everything, like that stuff is invaluable. And you know, that stuff we need to be shouting from the rooftop on about as well. But yeah, look at kind of gearing up. Silage is fertilizer is sprayed. Everything is kind of ready to go. Did a herd test there now on Wednesday. So I was actually yesterday morning. I was in the yard at 6:15, and I was in Monasterevin on a farm at 4 o'clock, and was back home then after, and up here. Then I'd actually come to Dublin then last night, so I had for a meeting this morning. But like, you do it and you just get on with it. But like, I suppose my normal week, if we're in the office on a Tuesday and a Thursday, generally would milk or try to be on the farm. During the spring especially, I'd be on the farm every morning, every evening, and then work as well during the day. And then the weekend is obviously the whole farm as well. So anywhere between 80 and 100 hours every week. But,
yes.
Do you know, when you're farming, you don't think of it as working though at times. Like when it's actually going well, I feel like, geez, I'd rather be doing that than playing around the golf.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I know.
And I feel like I'm doing something.
When you just referenced that, Marcus, as tough as it was, and you've nearly forgot already, you know, and that resilience within the community, the farming community, is unbelievable. It's like, let's go again, let's drive on. It's so positive. And like, I even see above in the village where I'm living now myself at the moment, you know, things going on in the GAA club, and the farmers in the middle of this were down giving a dig out when the fields got out of hand because the field couldn't be cut. Yeah. It's just fantastic to see, like, you know, with all the troubles they had in their own private environments, they were down helping the GAA club as well. Shout out to Tuller Ross Burke and their club going places as well, you know. But it was just fantastic to see what they've done there. That is resilience and community spirit.
Yeah, look, it is. It's an outlet as well, I suppose, James, you know. But like, it's very important that lads were able to get out and do that sort of stuff, I suppose, and just take their mind off of things that were going on at home. Like, it is like anything. It's like getting out and playing that round of golf, or going up there and watching Tuller clatter each other, or clatter other lads. But it's great to have that outlet out there, and just somewhere that you can go and talk to someone else. Like, you know, I don't know, like, Marcus, would you be big at going to, or good at going to discussion groups and that sort of stuff? And I suppose, you know, would yourself and your father be good at talking to other farmers and I suppose discussing problems that are shared and looking for solutions, I suppose?
I'd be talking to lads the whole time. I suppose the nature of the job that I'm in, I end up being on the phone nearly morning tonight. But like, I have a good friend based there that'll be around Drangan and that, like, nearly all farmers, like, they're all in discussion groups. Anytime we ever meet for a stag or whatever, like, I suppose that's one of the things actually that I was lucky, I suppose, like, in that over the spring I had 2 stags and 2 weddings, and like, they were, you know, there was 4 outlets, so I was actually forget about the thing for a day, you know, and it's actually, you wouldn't realise until you come home out of it how important it was that you forgot about any of the freaking bad weather or misery that was out there. But like, it is, I suppose, on the discussion group side of things, I'm not involved in them at the moment because I'm just trying to straddle 2 ends of the canoe now, really, more than anything at the moment. But like, Dad is in them and just doesn't go to them. But like, you know, they are great. Anyone that I do know is doing it or in them seem to enjoy them anyway.
Yeah.
But,
Quick question, Marcus. Them 2 stags, where were they?
One was in Killarney, the other was in Dungarvan.
Oh, savage. 2 mighty choices.
Now, yeah,
2 brilliant spots. So many great times
in the out in Killarney is just
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Everyone in the fall should then shouting and roaring at 9 o'clock in the morning, like, and
isn't it
not
fantastic?
Open the windows then at 11 o'clock and like, oh geez, we're on and after coming in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Up to the speakeasy, Jaker's eye.
James in the middle of putting together his own list there of Falch Ireland approved James Freeman approved stag venues. So he's tested a few of them over the years.
Yeah, it's my it's definitely my calling in life to go on stag parties. I'm at my best at them.
fair play, Jim. Fair play. Well, at least today we're getting in notes there hurling. Anyway, that's a plus. That's a plus.
A big one.
Yeah.
What's in the news?
So this week for What's in the News, Marcus, you've chose the article.
Yeah, it's from the ESRI. There's an article stating that the majority underestimate the climate impact of food. Now, the article is under a new piece of ESRI research. They conducted research among 1,200 Irish adults. 1 in 25 adults mentioned their diet that contributes to their carbon footprint, which is very small in terms of the number that was researched. But just a couple of different things. Like I think there's something like 40% saying that they'd reduce their emissions from transport mainly by driving less often. Another 25% had said they would like to reduce their transport emissions but can't, mostly because they don't have access to public transport. But one quarter said that they'd change what they eat to reduce their carbon footprint. And a slightly larger proportion, 27%, reported that they would like to but can't. Most citing the costs and not knowing what to eat as the biggest difficulties. However, the largest group, 47%, did not see a need to change what they eat. I suppose it's an interesting piece that's come out there, and I think it goes back to a lot of the agri education that we're already talking about, really, in terms of, the 47% didn't see a need to change what they eat. Like those 47%, you could argue, if they had their diet was based off of a typical Irish diet, those are the 47% that really trust what we're at. A slightly proportional 27% reported that they would like to cut but can't because they don't know. They either don't know or they don't trust the other options that are there. And the last then, just one quarter said that they'd change what they eat to reduce their carbon footprint. Like, are they not bringing in avocados anymore? So, or what are they doing then? If that's the case, because we all know that Irish meat and dairy is the best thing that they could be eating anyway. Interesting piece now, and I suppose intended to have a good crack at the food system there, and intended to have a good crack at the transport system, and as ever, the food and transport are being linked as the biggest emitters here in this country anyway, again.
There was one part you picked up on, Ed, in that.
What I found very, very interesting there now is that one in five people that took part in this survey never mentioned, actually, funny enough, driving as a source of carbon emissions, which would be a major source of carbon emissions in the country, and I thought that was bizarre. I suppose it's something that people probably do subconsciously. They don't even think on that end of stuff. I'd understand in places in some parts of Ireland there where public transport wouldn't be overly easy to access now, that they might mention that sort of thing now, but the cars now is a funny one, because it's something that's probably, especially as part of rural Ireland, it's something that's vital to everyday living, really,
Eamon Ryan had a great solution only 2 years ago for rural Ireland, that the village would only have 5 cars and we'd all share the 5 cars and figure it out, so we'll work that model too,
Yeah.
Marcus, thanks very much for coming on. It was brilliant. Very insightful, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks very much for having us, lads. It was great to be on.
Yeah, cheers, Marcus.
Mind yourselves out there. Farm smart, farm safe.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Sod Pod. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more, head over to www.grasslandagro.ie or check out our social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all for this episode. See you next time.